kind of an interesting situation in 2021. I think we're in uncharted territories. We don't have a firm idea of how the pandemic is going to play out in the new year, but I do think that we're going to continue to see a lot of people continuing to spend more time on their devices, and I think that companies are going to look at newer and unique ways to present content to users in an ad format.
Hi there, welcome back to cctalks. Here's your host Ilaria Severi, the Marketing and Communications Manager of Creative Clicks. In our podcast series, we will not only introduce you to our company Creative Clicks, but we will also talk about several topics regarding mobile and performance marketing, together with special guests and experts in the field. So we are already heading towards the end of the year, a year that has for sure shaken our lives and our businesses in different ways. Regarding mobile marketing, this pandemic has in several ways been a factor of growth, as we also discussed in our very first episode. Check it out if you haven't yet. To round up this year and understand what to expect from mobile marketing for the end of this 2020 and beginning of 2021, we wanted to have a chat with the SVP of Business Development of Creative Clicks Toronto, Jordan Cunningham, who was also one of the guests of our very first cctalks episode. Thank you, Jordan, for being with us today. How is everything going over there?
Hi, Ilaria. Thank you again for having me to chat again. I'm looking forward to kind of going through a lot of these trends and things that we're seeing kind of in the mobile marketing space. As you mentioned, it's been a very interesting year. So I think there's lots for us to unpack. Definitely.
Thank you, Jordan. So we've got a lot of juicy topics to discuss today, in fact. And at the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned that mobile marketing has actually experienced an important growth during and in a way, thanks to the pandemic. To give some numbers, grocery shopping apps have seen a dramatic growth, up to incredible 200% since the pandemic outbreak. And overall, a study conducted by Salesforce stated that over a third of shoppers prefer to make their purchases online until a COVID-19 vaccine is available. With this said, what do you think about these lies of the mobile marketing in the future months? And will online shopping outlast the pandemic?
We've actually seen some really interesting results on the shopping side of things, specifically there's obviously food delivery, which can be through restaurants and things like that. We've seen a huge growth in that area. But on the kind of shopping side of things, it's something that's been slowly building for a good amount of time. I think over the last 5 to 6 years, we've been running kind of successful campaigns in this vertical for a long time. There's always been scale prior to this. It's been something that's popular, especially in big metropolitan cities. I think with the pandemic, we've seen it grow to just a completely new level of popularity. I think, and it's not just in large metropolitan areas, it's starting to spread out kind of everywhere. And I think this particular trend that we're seeing, it was definitely accelerated by the pandemic, but it is likely to be something that we're going to continue to see into 2021 and probably into the future after the pandemic. It's something that makes people's lives easier, more convenient, and it's definitely something where I can see a lot of larger companies, probably more traditional companies in the retail space, will probably look to try to replicate this, and will probably look to try to spend more money in this area as we kind of go past the pandemic.
Great, thank you very much for those insights. And with regards to mobile ads, and although the influx of organic search traffic has risen during the pandemic, findings presented in Mobile Marketeer showed that the level of engagement for mobile ads has risen 15% over the past few months. What do you think will happen in the next months and once past the holiday season to mobile ads? Are publishers already planning to spend considerable budgets?
I think a good point you've kind of brought up. I think a lot of people are spending, the statistics are showing that a lot of people are spending a lot more time on their mobile devices kind of through the pandemic. I think that traditional agencies and advertisers and various marketers understand this. I think that they're looking at new and unique ways to present creatives and in an ad format to users. And I think this is what's kind of leading to that spike in engagement. I think you're seeing people, A, spending more time on their phone, and B, seeing creative content that is drawing them in more. And that can be things like interactive ads. That's something that's been kind of rising over the past couple of years. And I think that's leading to kind of an interesting situation in 2021. I think we're in uncharted territories. We don't have a firm idea of how the pandemic is going to play out in the new year. But I do think that we're going to continue to see a lot of people continuing to spend more time on their devices. And I think that companies are going to look at newer and unique ways to present content to users in an ad format. And I think that that's going to continue through the pandemic and probably after the pandemic as well.
Yeah, definitely. And about, spending, how do you think this will change, if it will change, especially because now, like I mentioned, we are about to embark the holiday season with, Black Friday and then Christmas and all of that. But then what's going to happen at the beginning of the year? What have you seen during these years in terms of after holiday spending, and also now considering this unusual situation which is caused by the pandemic?
So I think there's two things to consider. One important thing is that after the holiday season, we see a shift. In the lead up to Q4 and throughout Q4, we see a lot of products that are tied to e-commerce. That is when e-commerce brands tend to spend the largest. And we see in general, brands get to the end of the quarter. If they have unused budgets, they'll typically do a big push to make sure that they fill all budgets. When we shift into Q1 traditionally, we've seen gaming products have done really well during this period. We see streaming products maintain kind of a more consistent outlook throughout the course of the year, so they tend to do very well. I think we're going to see things like food delivery and shopping apps, like we've just discussed, grocery shopping apps. I think that will do well into Q1. And I think that brands, if they're seeing higher levels of engagement for mobile ads, they are going to be willing to spend more money, because higher engagement usually leads to more down funnel activities for brands. And when they see more down funnel activity, there's more willingness to spend, because it means the acquisition cost is coming back to them a lot better. Typically, there's better return on ad spend.
Yeah, makes sense. And you don't think, in a way, well, because now just a few days ago, they have announced a possible vaccine, and well, we still don't know what's going to happen next year. But so you don't see that these current situation will kind of stop the publishers and advertisers from wanting to spend more money on their ads?
I think if we look at kind of just the state of the mobile marketing industry, kind of exclusive from the pandemic, I think that the way people are working is changing. People are spending more time at home. I think this is leading to potentially more time on devices. I think that's going to be a more permanent change. People spending time working from home. I think that people will remain probably more engaged with their mobile devices. And as long as advertisers are seeing engagement results increasing and down funnel activity increasing, I think that they will continue to spend in line with that. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone looks at campaigns kind of on a return on investment perspective. And I think if they're continuing to see good metrics down funnel, then I think they'll continue to spend kind of regardless of where we stand with the global pandemic.
Makes sense. Well, it's undeniable that user behavior has changed, especially during these past months. But overall, we've seen a change, and mobile is becoming more and more present in everybody's life, even probably to those people that were less used to be so much on mobile, for sure. And well, you mentioned already apps, but diving more into this topic. So if we look at apps in these past months, we have seen an incredible growth in game apps, which you already said, health and fitness apps as well, home working apps. In 2021, the global mobile gaming market is expected to account for 24% of the global gaming industry revenue. So what other verticals and apps have you seen growing and will play a fundamental role in 2021?
I think one that I've mentioned just previously, I think that streaming it has been extremely popular. I think that we've seen throughout the pandemic, and I think that we're going to see continuing after the pandemic, that streaming is going to be something that there are more players being added to the game. It's something that's consistently growing and consistently changing with new brands, with more content, more products. I think we're seeing, depending on the market, but I think in the United States, we're seeing different types of gaming. So I think you're seeing things like daily fantasy sports. That has been very, very popular. I think you're starting to see some real money gambling in the United States. I think that's going to continue to kind of pick up speed. And I think that you're going to see some of the things that you've mentioned, like health and fitness. That's been a huge kind of growth area. I know it's always been something that's popular, but the growth of it has exploded over the last, let's say, couple of quarters. And I think that, as people's consumer behavior is changing, and as we look at, working habits and things like that, I think that some of the working habits that have changed during the pandemic, like I mentioned, are going to continue probably after the pandemic. So I think that you will see not just the existing health and fitness apps continuing to spend, but I think you're going to see a lot of new players coming into this market because it offers a lot of potential, a lot of upside. And I think that there's a lot more room for innovation and growth in this area, probably than some of the others.
That's great. And actually, it's great you mentioned innovation, because that leads to my following question, which is I wanted to dive more into, because I've read so much about this and a lot of the articles discuss these topics. So I want to talk about augmented reality and virtual reality, which are considered to get very big in late 2020 and especially in 2021. So even like you can now run AR ads on Instagram. So what are your predictions on this matter?
So this has been something that has been around the marketing space for a good chunk of time. I think that the technology has been there. It's been a little bit slow to develop, but you do have companies like Facebook who acquired Oculus, and this was probably 3 to 4 years ago. So there's definitely attention being paid to this space, but I think adoption and kind of the speed and actual impact of the technology has not caught up yet. But I do think that we're starting to see Facebook obviously owns Instagram, and owning Oculus, I think, has given them a bit of a leg up. Facebook has a very good ad-based ecosystem that allows them to run ads on Instagram, on Facebook. I think they're probably looking at something like WhatsApp as well. I think if they look at those three particular channels of theirs and they use some of the technology that they have from Oculus, I think they have a very good starting point for helping to turn the kind of AR and VR worlds into something that's a little more widely accessible to the general public. And I do think that we're going to see, we haven't heard kind of the last of this. I think we're just kind of at the starting point of this particular topic. And I think that there's going to be a lot of innovation probably over the next 2 to 3 years in this particular area. And I think we'll see a lot more in the ad space. And I'm actually really excited to see how our space adopts kind of the AR and VR technology forms.
Me too, definitely. This is something that I believe most of us in the mobile advertising industry, we are really looking forward to, and we're really curious to see how this is gonna develop in the future. And well, now let's talk about the big elephant in the room. So the burning topic of the mobile industry is definitely the iOS 14 impact. So among the many questions marketeers will try to solve are: what will campaign measurement really look like? Which new media and platform mix strategy to adopt in this context? How will CPMs evolve, etc.? And well, we already made some predictions with this regard in our first episode, which we launched in September. And what has changed since then, and how do you see this will impact mobile marketing and mobile marketing trends in 2021?
So I think the last time we spoke, we had just kind of learned that the iOS 14 privacy update would be delayed. I still don't think that we have answers on when exactly that privacy update will come into effect. But I do think that companies are starting to realize that this change is going to be inevitable. I think that on the marketing side of things, it's going to, there's lots and lots of information that says that this is going to really shake up the marketing industry. I think that what has changed for us is we have looked at integrations through the SK Ad Network. We've made sure that we've kind of integrated and familiarized ourselves with that particular platform. We've started running a host of tests with a variety of advertisers so that we can understand some of the limitations of the platform, some of the benefits of it. I think we can get a better understanding of what we think will come in the future just by testing everything now. So although we haven't been required to kind of test as if the privacy impact has already reached us, I think we're making sure that we have a good idea of what will come so that when that time does come, we're well prepared. And I think the biggest thing that we've kind of realized as a company is just that there is a lot of changes that still need to be made probably to the SK Ad Network in terms of its capabilities. I think we want to make sure that it's as strong and as reliable as possible if we're going to shift a large portion of our budgets to it.
Understood. And another thing that actually we mentioned, and it's really nice that we're able now to compare and see our predictions and what we discussed in our very first episode that we released in September. Besides the iOS 14, we talked about ad spending and how the US elections may play a role on the ad spending in the future months. So now we know who the winner was, we know how it went. So what are you seeing now in changes in ad spending? What has changed?
One of the biggest things that we've seen through communication with our publishers and advertisers, I think that some of the traffic costs have come down, specifically on major platforms like Facebook and Google AdWords. We think this is going to be short-lived. We think that a lot of e-commerce brands and more kind of traditional ad agencies are going to start spending, in advance of the holiday period and Black Friday. So I think there's a very short-lived period when traffic acquisition costs have come down a bit, but we do see that going back up. But that being said, as we've discussed in a couple other points throughout this, there are a lot of verticals and a lot of very interesting campaigns that are spending big right now because of the pandemic and will probably continue to spend in spite of the pandemic. And I think that's what we have our eye on as we look into 2021.
Great. Well, to conclude, what are some other biggest trends in mobile marketing for 2021 that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think we've really covered a lot of the important trends. I think some of the areas that we haven't touched on would probably be the programmatic space. It's something that, again, it's existed for a very long time. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but we're starting to see some of our more traditional cost per install advertisers come to us with programmatic opportunities. And I think that this particular area of mobile marketing, it's starting to gain a lot more momentum. It's starting to kind of be at the tip of a lot of advertisers' tongues right now. And it's something that as a company, we've been exploring for the past couple of years and that we're going to continue to explore moving forward.
Well, amazing. Jordan, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. It was great speaking about this, and I'm definitely very excited about the future with Creative Clicks and looking at the mobile marketing space for years to come. I think there's a lot of innovation, a lot of interesting things coming our way.
Definitely. We're all looking forward to that. And well, thanks to all our listeners for being once again with us. Make sure to subscribe to our CC Talks to stay updated on all the latest podcasts. And should you have any inquiries or would you like to talk about mobile marketing, feel free to reach out to us on our social media, but also to sales@creativeclicks.com. Well, till next time.